Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Video Clips. And a couple of announcements. Remember, the Research and Understanding Research Bootcamp is coming up on February 6th. Kidney disease, I'm teaching next Saturday. Mistletoe and Rife Technology are the next two in the Cancer 201 series. Lots of classes going on here that you might be interested in. And people are leaving healthcare in droves, and there are great opportunities for people on the right side of healthcare to take advantage of that. So if you're interested in careers, or if you're interested in leaving healthcare system for different kind of care, contact me, Pam Popper at msn.com. So on Fridays, I talk about consequences, and that's what I want to talk about here. And this story that I'm going to tell you is very typical of what's happening to families who have a sick or dying family member. And it's just so crazy. It's hard to believe that this stuff is really going on. So anyway, this person writes to me and says, I want my story to get out, even if it's just telling it to a total stranger. I need to write it down. In October of last year, my mother was discharged under palliative care to her own home. At the time, she really should have gone into a nursing home, but in COVID land, we wanted to avoid that. I came to stay with her for a few weeks to sort out what was possible. I ended up staying longer and realized her time was short, and so I asked my employer if I could be released for some time to care for her. They agreed, and I've been here since. Up until this week, we've pretty much been able to avoid the crazy, ever-changing rules and just give her a totally normal life surrounded by her family and friends. I didn't really pay any attention to the rules. Her health deteriorated rapidly this week, and we had no choice but to allow her to go to a hospice. The level of care she now needs is beyond our ability to provide it at home. Her health, and now I've entered into mainstream COVID land. She's allowed 2 different visitors who can come on alternate days, never together. We're only allowed for about 1 hour at a specified time. We're a large extended family, but only 2 are allowed. We can't walk through the building. We must enter and leave her room by an external patio door. We have to have our temperature taken, and it must be on the forehead, not allowed to do it on the wrist. And when I asked them to do it on my wrist, they refused. We've been trained to do it this way, and now this is how we do it. One asked me, are you happy for me to take your temperature? I said, no, I'm not happy, but since it's the only way I can see my mother, I have no choice. As she pointed the temperature gun at my head, I said, just look at that image of you standing with a gun to my head. She was visibly shocked. In the room where the staff are, you must wear a mask, otherwise you're not allowed in, but as soon as they leave, you can take it off. Meanwhile, the staff socialize with no masks in other part of the hospice. All this is happening in the room where my mother is. What would they do if I had a temperature and was already in? My dog is allowed to visit as often as he wishes, but not my family. And of course, that makes so much sense, right? My oldest brother has multiple sclerosis, and his nurse asked if he could take him up to visit. No, because he's not one of the named people. However, when your mother is almost at the end, we can then double up and you can have 2 pairs of visitors and they can come at any time. So while my mother is awake and can have some limited conversation, we can only have 1 + 1 visitor for an hour. When she's unconscious and no awareness, we can have 2 × 2 unrestricted. I explained we couldn't put my brother into a second visit group as he would only be able to come once for an hour. So to use that slot for a 1-hour visit was just not realistic. I was told they would take it to the management and ask for a special exemption, but they have to keep everybody safe. And they have never had COVID in the hospice, and they do have vulnerable staff. I just ignored them when they told me that, which is obvious since the masks are off with the staff socializing with each other. And of course, they leave every night and go God knows where, right? They don't live in the facility. But now things have gotten even worse. We were starting to discuss the funeral and decided that we didn't want 25 people in masks spread out in a big building. That's what we're currently allowed. So my brother has a big house and he agreed we would have it there, just a private family funeral. I have just found out that our government's diktat is that you're no longer allowed to have funerals in a private house. You're not allowed to have a wake, and you're not allowed to return to anyone's house afterwards. We now as a family have to work out what to do and how to do it. And right now, I don't know what that will look like. Lots of it we will ignore, but I can't imagine the undertaker being willing to break the rule. I'm so angry. I'm already grieving that my mom is dying, but now I have COVID anger to deal with as well. I think if I believed in the whole thing, it would be bad enough, but because I know it's ridiculous and this is all for nothing, I'm feeling a raw rage that I've never known before, but I didn't expect the rage not only toward the government and their advisors, but also toward my friends and others who believe in this and are enabling it to happen. Those who say we need to stay home and save lives, I want to punch them. How dare they? How dare they put me through this and rob my family of a dignified passing for my mother? How dare they rob the hundreds of people that my mother has influenced and who love her as we do? How dare they tell me I'm praying for you? I very much believe in prayer, but right now I want to tell them where to stuff their prayers, since it's they're colluding as in enabling this dystopian nightmare. I'm going to have to put this all in a box somewhere for the next week or two so I can get through the trauma that is coming. But I know that afterwards I'm going to have to deal with it. And I never imagined I would have to deal with grief and COVID anger at the same time. I might need to find a counselor, but my very first question to them will be, what do you think about COVID? And if they support it, I'll be moving on, for I might punch them instead. And I think, first of all, I've said this so many times, not just in the Friday videos, but in other videos, you just wonder at at what makes a person get to the place where they think this is okay. What kind of, I mean, if we knew what defect in the brain caused people to inflict this type of suffering and pain on other people, maybe we could just fix it. But it's astounding, and I totally agree with her. You know, the people who are facilitating this go along to get along, and that sort of thing. You know, what you're basically saying is you're okay with what's going on. And there's a saying, and I don't know where it came from, but I used to use it when I was a sales trainer all the time. And we talked about being in integrity, like looking the way that you're talking, you know, expressing your internal self and being genuine. And people look for that. People like to buy things from people they know, like, and trust. And so one of the things I used to tell salespeople all the time when I was training them is a saying that I picked up somewhere. It says, what you are and what you think speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. And I think that's kind of what we're dealing with some of these people who go through the charade of acting like they're compassionate. I'm so sorry for your loss, wearing the mask and screaming at unmasked people. I'm praying for you, while I'm cooperating with people who inflict this kind of nonsense on others, including people in horrific situations with a dying family member. That type of that's what comes to mind. What you are speaks so loudly. I can't hear what you're saying, because you're demonstrating with every fiber of your being that this is okay with you. And I got to tell you something. What I just read to you, it's not okay with me. I don't think it's okay with thinking compassionate people. So if you're watching this and you're one of these people who's facilitating this mess that we're in, think long and hard about what you're doing. You know, sometimes it's time to draw a line in the sand and strengthen your character a bit. Stand up for something, you know, because if you don't stand for anything, who are you anyway? Why are you occupying a space on the earth if you can't draw a line in the sand and stand up for what's right? So anyway, that's my pontificating about this. I read these things and I find them horribly distressing, horribly distressing. I'm sure you do too. And I think we need to continue to focus on the people who are suffering like this. It's what makes me get up in the morning and not sleep much at all and work the way that I'm working to change things. I hear things like this. It can't go on like this. It will not go on like this. It will not go on like this. All right, that's it for today and for the week as usual. Pass this on to others who you think would enjoy learning about this perspective on COVID. And I'll be back to you next week with more news.